to our general theme. It's well known that the Rizal was born here in Eretz Yisrael. He was born in Yerushalayim, and he was born to a Sephardic mother and an Ashkenazic father, and that's why he's called Rabbeinu Yitzchok Luria Ashkenazi, because his mishpacha name was Luria. And it's interesting, the Rizal, he's a great nephew, I think, of the Rashal. Have you ever heard of the famous Mufarish from the Gemara, the Rashal, Rabbeinu Shloim Luria Rizal? He's got a pirush on the whole Gemara called Chokmah Shloimeh, at the back there and underneath the Marshal, the Chokmah Shloimeh. That's the Rashal. He was a grand uncle of the Arizal. He was a Luria, and the Arizal was also a Luria. And he was called, the word Ashkenazi, it wasn't really his family name. No, he was called Ashkenazi because he really belonged to Sephardim, but his father was an Ashkenazi, therefore they called him Yitzchok Luria Ashkenazi. That's where he got the term from. So he was born in Yerushalayim, Mir HaKodesh. And after a relatively short time, Rahman and Islam, his father passed away, and he was left orphan, the Rizal. And then his mother got a suggestion from a uncle, that's a brother, I think it was, of her husband, to go and live in Mitzrayim, because it was hard for them to, find panosa and everything. In those days, so things weren't, very much by Hachor at that time. So on the basis of that, the Arizal moved over, and he lived for many years of his life in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. And that's where he began his whole journey into the Kabbalah, and everything was all in Mitzrayim. And his role in Nigla was the Radvaz. You guys ever heard of the Showers and Shuvas of Radvaz? The Rabbeinu David ben Zimra was his name, but he's one of the greatest Acharonim, and he was also a role of the, you ever heard of the Shita Mekubetzes, the famous, there's a whole series of Sefer on Ksubas, on Bava Metzia, and Bava Kama. It's a famous Isuf of all the Rishonim on the famous Masechtas of Shas called the Shita Mekubetzes. That was written also by a great, what was his name? Betzalel Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi was his real name. Rabbeinu Betzalel Ashkenazi, he wrote the Shita Mekubetzes. He wrote it. He was Ma'asef at Kol Svarim, in the Shita Mekubetzes. So he was also a role to a certain extent of the Rizal, and he was a chaver with this Shita Mekubetzes, the Betzalel Ashkenazi. He was a chaver with the Radvaz, and the Radvaz was the actual Rosh Yeshiva in Nigla of the Arizal. The Arizal actually learned Nigla from him. Then, after a certain time, the Arizal, when he was quite young, he found a copy of the Zohar HaKodesh amongst the Svarim that he was, and he began even at that early stage of his life to be misboded. He would go away on his own, and he would study the Zohar Kodesh. So he gradually became very knowledgeable in the Zohar, and it's well known that right up to the end, a lot of his drushes were in the Zohar HaKodesh, and Pirushim Amukim Chadoshim in the Zohar. So he began to become very, very governed by the Kabbalah and by everything. So the Radvaz, he was an unbelievably great figure, but he was more into the olam of Nigla, and he wasn't sure that this young growing Talmud should be left to go like he was obviously getting so very deeply into the olam of the Kabbalah. So he worked out a whole plan whereby he was going to gradually sort of wean the Arizal from this whole journey into the Kabbalah he was making in private. And the Radvaz had a dream. Okay, he had a famous dream, and Kaviochel Milmaila They appeared to him in the dream, and they said, listen, you mustn't carry out this plan that you got, and you have to realize that this is not for you, this whole Indian. Your Indian is, your greatness is unquestioned, and your gift to the generations has already been made, and it's being realized. Although you mustn't interfere with this particular Indian, and you must keep out and not carry out your plan to wean this young man from the Kabbalah. So he went on the result, and then gradually he built up a whole amazing knowledge in the from Penimus Torah, and he already began at that very early stage, when he was only very young, to have a whole ashpah on other Mukubalim, and he made kesher with other Mukubalim in Eretz. Anyway, with the Ramak here, the Rabbeinu Moshe Karavira. Anyway, after a certain amount of time, the Arizal came on a visit to Eretz Yisrael. Came on a visit, and he was only here for about 3 or 4 months. He wasn't here for a long time, but he came at the time of Lag B'Omer. He came at the time when it occurred, and so the whole concept of going to Meron on Lag B'Omer really goes back to the Arizal, even though there were a lot of people who were already going at that time, but the Arizal took all of his Talmidim and everybody that he had with him. He had part of his family with him and everybody, and just like the Sephardi people do now, they camp out. The Arizal went there for several days before Lag B'Omer, and he built himself a whole tent and a whole thing, and he stayed there till after Lag B'Omer. And that's how that whole minhag is known to us. That's the first trace of that whole minhag of doing it that way comes from that visit of the Arizal. And then there's a whole famous story how he made a connection with the you heard about the Sefer Charedim. You guys are familiar with the Sefer Charedim? The Alter Rebbe brings it to Perek 1 and base Tanya. So the Sefer Charedim, his name was Rabbeinu Elazar Azkari, and he was a most amazing figure. But I can't go into everything, otherwise we'll never talk about the Rizal. We go too much into all these side and yonim. But just very briefly, this shul down here near the Beis Chaim, what they say is they claim it's the Beis Knesset of the Rizal. But they claim that's where he used to actually daven. But this one down here that they built, they say that's the place where he used to go. That used to once be an apple field. At the time of the Rizal, it was an apple tree field. And he used to go out on Erev Shabbos and be Mekabel Shabbos in the apple tree field. You know the whole thing. Chachal Tapuch and Kadishin. The whole
it's a real place.
Yeah, he used to go out there, and so they built this shul where he used to be Mekabel Shabbos. This one down here. Well, the one down there, they claim is the one where the Arizal died. So at that time, the Shammers in the shul, the one who looked after the shul and did the sweeping out and cleaning up, he was the Charedim. He was the Charedim, and he was very, very, he was very nista. He was a Emes Dugma, the Tzaddikim and Historian, later by the Baal Shem Tov. He used to hide himself. Nobody knew what was going on, but he was a tremendous Goan in Nigla and Yamin Nista, and he was a hidden, totally very, very great person. Now, it so happens, by the way, it's very interesting, and that's going to be of interest in what I'm trying to say now. You just give me, to reach my point, I always go around a bit before I reach the main point. What's the main point going to be about is Moshiach. So you have to know that the Charedim, the Sefer Charedim, he was a Mishchit. He was a Mishchit. He was a very, very big Mishchit. The Sefer Charedim, he was convinced that now, at this very moment, when he was coming to the fore, I'll soon explain to you how he came to the fore, he believed that was a moment that's never been in history for the coming of Mashiach. And the Charedim had a whole group of people around him, and they used to make special prayers and special yichudim alienim. They used to make these high forms of yichud in order to try and bring the Mashiach. And there was one time when the Charedim took a whole group of his Talmidim with him. They went over to Meron, Now listen to this. And they said they're not coming back home until Mashiach comes. They're going to bring the Mashiach, and they're not coming back to their homes until they brought Mashiach. That's what they did. They went over. So you see, what the sort of brand that Rabbi wants was, you just see what in those days, the guys weren't embarrassed, He said the whole world, he was a well-known person by then. How he became well-known, I'll soon tell you. And he said that he's going over to Meron, and he's not coming back until he hasn't brought Mashiach. Yeah. And the whole Mazel that he stayed over there in Meron, together with these close Talmudim, they went with him, and they stayed over there, and they slept there, and whatever they ate, I don't know what they did. And in the end, they had to get a special ruling of rabbis here in Tzfaz to send him and tell him they had to come out. He was out there a long time, the Charedim. He was there for a long time. And it was a special were from Rabbanim to bring him home, back to his household here in Tzfaz. And so anyway, how come that he became revealed? He was this Tzadik Nister, and he was the shaman in the shul of the Arizal. How did he become revealed? So it's like this. When the Arizal was on his first visit here, and he was over there in Meron, on the night of Lag B'Omer, the Arizal said, we've got to go a dance. And he got all the Talmudim together, and all the people, well, he didn't have all that many Talmudim here then, but people that were like, around big people, some of them were very grown people, and he made a circular dance. And they started all to dance. And so in the middle of the dance, all of a sudden some well-dressed person, really very, very impressively dressed, a very impressive looking person, he pushed through like the circle, and he came into the middle of the Machol, where the Arizal and all these other Rabbanim were dancing, and he started to dance individually in the middle. All of a sudden the Arizal stepped out of the circle, and he went over and put his hand on the shoulder of the special person, and they danced. They danced for a long time together. And all of a sudden, this very special person puts out his hand, and he pulls the Charedim, the person called the Charedim. He pulls him into the circle, and the three of them are dancing, and he's dancing very specially. This rather unknown person is dancing very specially with the Charedim. So all the other Rabbanim and all the other people, they were a bit envious, This guy, he's only a shamash, He's only a shaman. He looks after the shul and sweeps out, he's very productive in the shul, everything's fine. But, what's the yichus, So they couldn't quite figure out what's going on. So later, when the whole dance was finished, this person that he came, he went away rather mysteriously. After they didn't see him anymore. So they all came up to the Arizal later, and they said, listen, what's the whole Indian that this man came in, that you danced with, you brought the Charedim especially into the dance. Why weren't we invited into the dance? So the Arizal said, if it's enough for the Rashbi to dance with the Charedim, then it's enough for me. That's it. What did it work out according to that? This special man that came in, dressed very impressively, that was the Rashbi. The Rashbi came in, he broke into the dance, and he danced with the Arizal, and then he said he wants to dance especially with the Charedim. So the Arizal said to these Rabbanim, he said, if it's enough for the Rashbi to dance with the Charedim, it's not enough for me to dance with them. He said, what do you guys want of me? I said, it was the Rashbi's idea. So from then on, everybody's eyes jolted out and scopes. They began to understand that the Charedim was somebody very special. After that, he couldn't hide himself anymore, and he became very famous. And he wrote this very famous book called the Sefer Charedim, and the Alter Rebbe quotes him in Perek Lamed Beis. And Lamed Beis is the heart of the Tanya. Duck in the heart of the Tanya, that's where he occurs this Sefer. So you can get some idea. And he wrote a pirush on the whole Talmud Yerushalmi, on the whole. It's called Pirush HaCharedim, on the whole Talmud Yerushalmi. He's got a pirush. So he was something very amazing. Al Chaponim, he was a big Mashiachist, and he said that this is the time for Moshe. The Arizal, on that first visit, he went back to Mitzrayim. He didn't stay here in Eretz, and he didn't meet up with Rabbi Menachem Av Farbrengen yet. He was only here about 3-4 months, and then he went back to Mitzrayim. Then all of a sudden, a year later, mamish 12 months later, all of a sudden everybody hears that the results coming, and he came with his whole family, with his wife and with his children, and everybody, and I think he brought some other members, aunts or uncles, whoever they were. He brought them all from Mitzrayim, and they all came over to Eretz HaKodesh, and the Rizal said that this time he's come to stay. He's come to Shtakeh B'Artzona HaKadosh. So I thought the question, what was the big Indian that the Rizal came and then he went back, and then he came and he said he's staying. So the Indian is that it appears that the Rizal was of the same opinion as the Haredim and other great Rabbanim that were at that time, and they said that it was man miyuchad Rabbi Mashiach, that this is the time. And later the Arizal, before his historia, before he passed away, the Arizal said that there's never been such a moment for the coming of Mashiach since the Rashbi. He said the Rashbi, due to his unbelievable skills of revealing the whole Indian from Pnimis HaTorah, he could have brought Mashiach. And it's not understandable why he didn't come Bisman to the Rashbi. Since the Rashbi till now, there's never been a moment. So you might say, where do we see it? So you see it. Hidden behind this whole move of the Arizal. And then the Arizal sent this amazing spiritual message to the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital. And the fact that Rabbeinu Chaim Vital came all the way down from Damascus to meet up with the Arizal, it also appears that the Arizal thought that these two neshamas would get together, that would, how do you call it, add a huge burst to the coming of Mashiach. Apart from the Indian, that there was the Indian to be mild, the neshama from the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital below him, nonetheless, there's beauty sophic that the Arizal saw in that extra Indian to the Indian bringing the Gil. So you might say, well, where do we see it? So there's a famous story, but the Rebbe told the story. The Rebbe Melech Mashiach told the story a number of times, and every time the Rebbe told the story, he learned another angle of limud, another, teaching that we can gain from this Maisa if we only study it carefully. And what was it? That the Arizal, as we said, used to go out from somewhere down there in that area. He used to go out from there and come over to here on Friday afternoon, late, just before Knesset Shabbos, and he used to come with Beluva Alidei Talmidim and people, a whole group of them, and they used to come up to where there was a apple field, where they had this apple tree field, and here's where they used to be Makabel. They used to be Makabel Shabbat. I remember one Friday afternoon, or Ter Hagav, you heard the story about Rabbeinu Moshe Alshu. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. How are you? You're running after me.
Catching up.
This is Mayor. So, you know the famous story with the Rabbeinu Moshe Alshu. You know the Alshu was just down here somewhere. So the Rabbeinu Moshe Alshu, he all the time, he wanted to learn Kabbalah from the Arizal. He was already a great figure in Nigla. He had his own Talmidim, and he wrote Charles and Chuvas, many, and the whole thing. But he wanted to learn Kabbalah from the Arizal. And he asked him many, many times that he should spend special time to teach him the Kabbalah. Every time the Arizal would find like an excuse, he would say, another few days, or wait a little bit, right now I'm very, very busy. And later the Arizal became very busy with people coming into his house, and it's a whole amazing story. Anyway, each time the Arizal put him on. So one Friday afternoon, the Alshik decided that what he would do was that the Arizal used to come to him on Kabul Shabbos, with all these people on Friday afternoon. And it was always a very special moment. It was Eis Rotzen with the ganze, Orgiers moment, I don't know how to translate it, Eis Rotzen. Very special moment. So he would wait just where the Rizal came past to go to the apple field, and he would stop the Rizal and said, listen, you've got to agree to make a kriya, said you got to teach me you got to teach me the secrets of the Kabbalah, how you know. So he decided that he's going to wait at this corner where they used to come and turn around to come up here to the apple field, and he's going to catch the Arizal, and for sure he will get an agreement out of it. So the Elsie gets himself all ready for Shabbos, he's all, he's all equipped and everything, Gashmi's and he comes, he sits himself down right at the spot where the Rizal is going to fall over him, he's certainly going to see him. And he's waiting patiently for the Rizal to come. And all of a sudden, for some reason, he began to feel tired. It was very unusual for him, but he started to get very, sort of radum. It happens to people, doesn't it? He got very, radum, and he couldn't understand what on earth is happening to him. How can this be happening to me? I'm the big, Beit Moshe, how come I'm sloughing? And he could, everything he did to wake himself up just seemed to put him even deeper into the slumber. And in the end, he sort of, his head dropped down, and then he sort of fell off the seat he was sitting on, and he sort of slid a bit towards the floor, and he was in not a particularly dignified sort of position, and he was asleep. So a few minutes later, the Rizal comes by and turns the corner, and all of the Talmudim, they take him and say, this is my Alsik. Maybe we should wake him up, we should help him, we should do something. And so the Rizal said, no, just leave him, just let him sleep. He's in a comfortable sleep. He'll wake up whenever he needs to wake up. Just leave him. And they all went on. He comes up to the apple field and they have a couple of Shabbos and they walk back in the house. He's still asleep. So there is not terrible. He'll wake up. Everything will be okay. And that was it. So later, when it's already dark and everybody's already done Mariv, and all of a sudden the house is like, what's he doing here? And he realizes that it's already much, much too late. So he ran around to wherever he felt the Rizal was going home, or he was already at home. And he intercepted the Rizal and he said, what happened to me? I dropped to sleep. I've been gefallen as I schlaf. How does that happen to me? Why didn't you wake me up? You passed with the Talmudim, why didn't you wake me up? So the Rizal said to him like this. He said, listen, you have to know that your neshama came down into the world to be Meir es kol hadoros be'olam hadrush. Now anybody who knows about the Osik Sefer and how it fits into the different levels of Pshat, Remez, Drush, and so on, know that the Ike Koyach of the whole Sefer Osik is this Drush. It's an even Drush. That's a very special level in the Indian of Torah. And the Rizal said to him that your neshama came into the world to be Meir es kol hadoros be'inyan hadrush. And he said, I came into the world, and my inyan is olam hasoy. My inyan is the inyan sword, which is Kabbalah. And he said, the two don't necessarily come together. So he said, you don't need, what you want to learn from me is not necessary for you. You're going to be great, and you're going to be known for all the generations, and your word is going to be learned, and you're going to have a shpur, ad bias HaMashiach. But you don't need what I can give you. You don't need it, it's not for you, and that's why you fell asleep. You fell asleep not because you wanted to sleep. You couldn't figure why you were falling asleep. Oh, but you fell asleep, well, it's not your inyan. What was the inyan? So after the Osik heard that, he went ahead, and the Osik is great to this day, and everybody runs the Sefer, Rabbi Moshe Osik, and he is one of the greatest of all the Meforshei HaTorah, Mi'azman Shaloi Ad Hayom Hazeh. Oh, but it's not the even Kabbalah. And that's what so it's just one of the stories of when the Rizal used to go out to be Makabel Shabbos in But what happened, what's the story that we want to tell? It happened like this, that the Rizal walked out on Friday afternoon with all his Talmidim. This is got to be careful attention. He walks out with all his Talmidim and they pass the same area. All of a sudden the Rizal said, you know, it's a big auguries moment at this moment. It's a great Eish Ratzon. All of a sudden the Rizal says, before they want to cover it, it's a great auguries moment. So all the Talmidim get, they get surprised and they get, how do you call it, to use the expression in Yiddish, barashed, and they turned to the Rizal and said, what's the Eish Ratzon? So the Rizal said, Amir Hashem, we're all going immediately to Yerushalayim. Now from here to Yerushalayim is a bit of a hole. Even with all the modern buses and everything, it takes about 3 hours. With the most modern vehicles to get from Tzfas to Yerushalayim. So he said, we're all going immediately to Yerushalayim. The Talmidim couldn't figure, what did he mean we're going to Yerushalayim? So they all sort of, hummed and hawed. And the Rizal said, listen, it's a Goy's Eish Ratzon. We're all going immediately to Yerushalayim. Who's coming along? Are you all with me? We're going immediately to Yerushalayim. So all of a sudden, some of them Talmidim said, we can't go right at this moment. We've got to go back and tell our relatives that when they come here, people are going to wait for us. And, it's going to be, and we have to go back and announce it in the house, and then we'll come with you. Yeah, so there is one of them. Anyway, he slapped his hands together, and I said, and he said, the moment has been lost. So they said, what moment? What's our moment is given? So the Rizal said, there's never been such a moment. Mizman Arashbi, Ad Arega Hazeh. There's never been such a moment for the coming of Mashiach. This was the moment that Mashiach was ready to come. Had we all said we're going, and we are going across to Yerushalayim, then the Hanan Ishmael would have come down and they would have taken us all to Yerushalayim. But you guys hummed and hawed, and you said you got to go home, you got to tell the Rebbetzin, you got to tell this, you got to tell that. He said, we missed the opportunity. So the Rebbe spoke about this Meiser. The Rebbe speaks about this Meiser several times. The Rebbe, one of the things the Rebbe said was that you have to realize that if you're a chassid of a Rebbe, then you have to rely on the Rebbe. Yes. In other words, that these guys, they were right. They have certain inyanim that, a man's got a certain chiyuv to his household on Shabbos. It can't just be a hefker, man. You can't just disappear. You can't. Whatever. So the Rebbe said that when it comes to questions of that nature, if you're a chassid, then you rely on the Rebbe. The Rebbe knows for sure what your kasha is. He knows for sure what the kasha is. And after weekend he says you have to go, then you don't ask any question. You go. If you ask any question, even just hint at the question, you can miss the whole bath. So, you don't ask any question. That's number one. And you don't even question based on halacha. Even things that you got a Ryan Shulchan Aruch. The Rebbe knows about the Ryan Shulchan Aruch. He knows the diktuk. He knows the Indian. And after weekend he said we have to go. That's the Nekudas. That's the Nekudas Koreim. But Chas v'sholem that we shouldn't be in a zamatza that we're going to be the ones that are going to ask the shaglas. We're going to say, how can we do this? How can we do this? Yeah, we have to first of all, what does the world say? What do we say? What does this one say? What does Pliny say? Yeah, what does the figure of the Shulchan Aruch say? The Rebbe knows the Shulchan Aruch better than you do. And he says, Dashrein, we want Mashiach now. And the Rebbe says you have to say, Yechia Melech HaMashiach. It's if you do it, you just don't ask any shot. You just do it. And Beis Hashem is with good time. The Rizal was a cruel person that he thought that his Talmidim wouldn't have a good Shabbos or something. There'd be something wrong would happen, Chas v'Chalila or Chas v'Shalom. It'll all be good for everybody Toiva nira vanigla begashmi saburknis kamyach. Kam yachad, gashmi is everything you want. And on the contrary, Mashiach will come and he'll be probably better than what you want. Better than what you can imagine. Absolutely. Like the Alter Rebbe said, that whatever you picture, Mashiach is going to be incomparably better. It's written on Yom Yom. And Kuta is that you don't ask any shayla. And that's the amazing, and it's put down in our sefer. I saw this afternoon, I saw it in our sefer. It's put down that just before these talkers, the result, you know what happened with the whole mice.